Ready. Okay, so we are going to start the meeting tonight of the Public Art Commission, Thursday, August 15th in Council Chambers.
September 19th.
You are right. I read it right off of the sheet, which we can correct to the month of September. Thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, you're like, wow. Okay, so I'm going to start with roll call tonight. Commissioner Collins is absent. Commissioner Richter. Here. Commissioner Toback is absent. Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Commissioner Miyagi is absent. Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Here.
And I am here, Commissioner Usage. Okay, so agenda changes tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong.
Here's the, I think.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have any agenda changes, requests, or deletions?
No, I have two.
Okay. We'll move on to oral communications. Does any members of the public want to address the commission tonight? If so, we have speaker cards behind Elise. Moving on to approval of the minutes of August 15th, August 26th, and September 9th. You have those three in front of you. They were for two of our special meetings and our last public meeting. And I will, I guess we don't have line numbers on them anymore, so if you have any comments, tell us what section it refers to.
I've already read mine. I had no comments. Does anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I had no comments. No comments.
I move that we accept the minutes for each of the meetings that you stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, moving on to our financial report tonight.
Well, the financial report this evening will be brief. After the new fiscal year began and with the staff changes, we're waiting confirmation back from our budget department. So I'm waiting until we have firm numbers to come back with you, but those will be coming shortly. What you do have in front of you are maintenance actuals, and there isn't much new to report there. If you look on the top lines for maintenance actuals, the supply item is moved up slightly because the crew needed to purchase some items for the collection and for the cleaning. And we have an approximate down below the pending estimates. The crane for Skyhook is approximately, it'll be approximately $2,500. It should come in well below that. And then the $1,500 for the framing. So as those projects come to fruition, and we have the actual dollar amounts, those will move up into that upper portion.
Question.
Yes.
Just an update on digital DNA. Just an update on digital DNA. Has the cleaning already started for digital DNA?
No, I'm going to give a maintenance update later on the agenda, and I will address digital DNA specifically.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions about maintenance budget, we'll move on to staff comments.
Well, as you all know, we've been very busy. So the comments are a little bit lengthy, so bear with me, please. So I'm going to start with, boy, that seems loud, with Hoover Park. So last Sunday was the Midtown Residents Ice Cream Social in Hoover Park. This well-attended event had representatives from several city departments, friends groups, Midtown businesses, and commissions. The public art program had a booth there to talk about the upcoming Hoover Park bear sculptures by artist Beth Nybeck. The response from the residents was overwhelmingly positive. Staff had a board with images of the 3 bear cubs and asked residents who were interested to provide nicknames for the bears. Annette Glankoff of the Midtown Residents Association will continue to accept nickname suggestions at midtownnews@att.net until October 1st. The winning names will win an ice cream cone or something along those lines. The concrete pads are scheduled to be poured tomorrow morning for the sculptures. Those will need about 10 days to cure, and the artist is scheduled to install them the morning of October 3rd. There will be an opening celebration for the sculptures in Hoover Park, and we're targeting that afternoon of October 3rd while the artist is still here. Mayor Scharf is tentatively scheduled to be in attendance. The next item I have an update on is Aurora. There have been multiple meetings between the artist Charles Gadigan, community advocate Harry Hirschman, public art staff, and public works staff to clarify the details of this installation. It appears as though placing the sculpture in the former fountain will be the best solution after all. In order to submit the permit applications, drawings and calculations must be submitted showing how the sculpture will be placed or anchored in the planter. Completed traffic control plans, specs on the lift they will be using on the plaza, specs on the size of the crane and the flatbed truck used to deliver the sculpture parts, and an explanation of their plan will affect how their plan will affect the landscaping and irrigation. Need to be submitted before the permitting application can go in. So there are a lot of details with this project that still need to be clarified. When they've assembled all the information, it will first be submitted for review to planning, then the buildings department, then public works. Once this review process is underway, we'll have a better idea of the original schedule and opening date. I know they had targeted November 8th, so we would like to try and make that date, but it just depends on how long the approval process actually takes. Staff and the applicant were targeting October 8th or mid-October for a community informational meeting. KQED recently did a piece about Black Rock Arts Foundation and the Burning Man artworks that are being shown in various cities and especially here in the Bay Area. And Aurora was featured, and they spoke a little bit about bringing Aurora to Palo Alto. So if you go to the KQED website, you'll be able to find that. A Kickstarter campaign will be launched soon to raise the remaining funds. Juana Briones Park. The leaf pattern concrete stamping was completed Friday, August 23rd by Jennifer Schultz and the members of her Girl Scout troop. The mural is tentatively scheduled to be completed the weekend of October 5th and 6th on the restroom. For University Avenue tunnels, the five artists who were selected as finalists for the temporary public art project within the University Avenue tunnels have all agreed to submit site-specific proposals by October 8th at 3 p.m. Those artists are Heather Carson, Ala Ebtekar, Philip Smith, Peter Wegner, and the artist team Joe O'Connell and Blessing Hancock. The second selection panel is scheduled to meet and interview the artist Thursday, October 17th. The selected artist and proposal will be presented to the Public Art Commission for approval at the October meeting that same day. The Bruce Beasley event, which took place Sunday, September 8th, was a joint event with the Palo Alto Art Center Foundation at Bruce Beasley's studio. Approximately 40 people attended the event. Staff gave an informational presentation on the bus to the Oakland studios highlighting Beasley's background, as well as his piece for Mitchell Park, the overall art plan for Mitchell Park, and information regarding the existing Percent for Art program. Mr. Beasley generously led tours through his studios and sculpture garden, highlighting his current projects, including Arpeggio 5, which is scheduled for installation at Mitchell Park the week of October 1st. The feedback from the event was extremely positive. Website and database. Civica has been working on the collection database and sample pages for the city website dedicated to the public art program and the commission. Translating the database of multiple images has proved to be a larger challenge than anticipated. Staff has a meeting scheduled tomorrow morning with Civica to check in on the progress and will report back at the October Public Art Commission meeting. And that's the end of the staff comments.
Question. The bear sculpture. I remember the last time that we saw the specs on it, the edges were kind of sharp. Was that worked out? don't remember hearing anything else about it.
Everything was worked out, but because it is not an item on the agenda, we can't really have discussion on
no
that
questions?
item.
Well, my second one was, does the Beasley sculpture have a name? Because we've been calling it Beasley sculpture for so long. Does it have a name?
Arpeggio 5.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I heard you say that.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our non-action items tonight. We don't have any action. Number 1, maintenance projects. So that's back to staff for an update of projects undergoing maintenance.
So I thought this was going to be a bigger item when we put it on the agenda, but I do have a few updates for you. So we have been using one of our installation crew members who has a lot of experience in public art, Joe Sachs, to assist with a number of projects having to do with maintenance and installation and some of the projects like Aurora. So Joe Sachs has really been managing the installation of the new base for Skyhook Boca Raton and the pouring of the new concrete pad. So the base for Skyhook Boca Raton was delivered last week by artist Peter Shire, who mounted the piece on the roof of his Mini Cooper and drove it from Southern California into the courtyard of the Art Center. I really apologize. I wasn't there. If I had been there, I would have taken a picture, but I do not have one. We are still awaiting concrete estimates to have the new pad poured, and then of course we'll need to coordinate when the crane comes in. So we plan to pour the pad adjacent to the existing pad so that we can just have the crane come in once and then jackhammer out the old pad, which seems like it's going to be more efficient and it's going to work fine with the site. As for digital DNA, which Commissioner Rickner asked about earlier, we are just finalizing a date for Jonathan Fisher to come out and do the sealing on it. So it's anticipated that he'll probably do that within the next 2 weeks. And that's all I have right now for maintenance.
Will the piece be moved, or is he going to work on site?
No, the piece is not moving. All the work will be done on site.
Should send us an email, let us know. Maybe I could drop by and just take a look while he's doing it.
I can let you know when we have a date, sure.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you for that. Item number 2 on our agenda tonight is the City Hall lobby artwork. You also all have an attachment with further information for this item.
So there have been a lot of discussion with some of the executive staff here in the city about big changes for the City Hall lobby and the desire to make the space more inviting and open to the public and really make it the people's space. There's a strong desire from the city manager's office to make sure it is interactive and reflects the community. Public art staff has identified this as an interesting opportunity to use public art as a vehicle to accomplish this goal. Additionally, with the shortage of indoor space in which to showcase new media artwork to the public protected from the outdoor elements, City Hall lobby provides a unique opportunity to undertake a commission of a significant scale. In keeping with some of the municipal art plan goals, this kind of project would include a signature destination artwork, using new media artwork to engage the public, partnering with local technology-based companies to bring an impactful work of art to Palo Alto, diversing our funding sources and partnerships both within the city and externally, among other goals outlined in the plan. The percent for art budget would total approximately $25,000. However, staff's initial discussion with senior staff and other departments have identified several possible sources for additional funds to pool together to help fund the project. Unfortunately, the project is on the fast track, and the public art element has been incorporated late in the construction discussion. If the infrastructure to support a new media artwork is needed for inclusion in the construction documents, an artist needs to be identified very soon. Staff plans to launch a call to new media artists who may be interested for consideration in an artist pool should the funding come through. And so I've given you a little a write-up of what we have used as staff to reach out to some of the other staff within the city and explore some of those funding options. But clearly we would need to rely on various departments. We would want the support of the Public Art Commission, and whatever artwork would be selected, then we would target some outside funders as well to move ahead.
And I don't know if this is the time to discuss this, but in the past, local artists have looked forward to having that place and that space out there as something that they have, so that they have a local exhibition hall, so to speak. I have not talked to Deborah Jacobs in a while, but she had promised me that she was going to do a revolving art space at the new library. Which could easily take the place of the public site for local artists. And if that be the case, then I have no qualms about what you're going to do in the lobby. Otherwise, the local artists will sort of lose that space. So, and I'm just making a point of it now so that when it comes back, and I'm making a note to myself to contact Deborah and see where they are in terms of the revolving art space for the library.
So I'm happy to respond to some of that.
Okay.
The overall vision would be a complete revamp of the ground floor of the lobby. So in fact, that large gallery wall would cease to exist because it is going to open up more into a community room. So that lobby would be a diverse, usable space for seating. There would be another open meeting room, visible and open to the public, that would take up that wall. So essentially, that gallery space will cease to exist as a real showcase for showing artwork. As for Mitchell Park Library and Community Center, they are putting, they do have an anchoring system for rotating artworks that will go throughout that building, and also the plinths around the courtyard still will be available for rotating temporary sculptures.
Elise, I just had two questions. One, will there be any formalized community input to what happens in the lobby, or is it all, kind of already done?
As far as the construction?
Yeah, as far as input in terms of what people would like to see that their city hall lobby has, or?
I can't speak to how far, how much outreach has gone into that part of it with the revamping of the lobby. But I know the desire is that it makes it a more usable space, because right now it isn't.
And then I just wondered, we'd had some success in the past with using sending out requests for qualification as opposed to proposal. Do you anticipate using that methodology to see about interested artists in participating, or are we not that far yet? I was just kind of wondering.
That's what the artist pool is. So, right, and that's an RFQ, and so that's typically how we operate. Is we just ask for qualifications to grab a larger pool of artists who may be appropriate for the commission, and then we pay a stipend for site-specific proposals.
I have a question just about the sequence of events on the option of seeking outside funding. So I noticed in here right now it says once a proposal has been chosen, the public art program and IT will be seeking outside funders. And I just wanted to ask about that because I can think of examples of where, for example, if there were an interested technology partner here in town, I would imagine that their interest in funding would also be around the new media project showcasing their type of technology. So that would take them out of the candidate pool to sponsor the artwork if the artist chosen does not work in their technology.
Right. Instead of having the technology drive the artwork, the artists who are working in new media, say they work on monitors or they have motion sensors, then we would target those types of sponsors who would like us to use their products to implement the artwork. But then the artist is driving the vision, and we aren't trying to make the artwork fit the technology.
Right, to not be an advertising piece.
Right.
Right, which makes sense. So.
I have a question, maybe two. Maybe it's not a question and more of a comment. You mentioned about the timing of the construction documents. So do you know kind of what phase they're in for this? Are they still in the design phase, or are they actually doing the documents already, or you don't know?
I'm uncertain where they are on that. I know we're certainly getting a lot of pressure that if there is going to be infrastructure required for an artwork, that they would like to know that sooner than later.
So that's going to be my tip would be, because there are people who would have already laid out the design and kind of know the requirements. They probably are also the best people to identify a spot for said artwork. And so really the requirements, the infrastructure requirements would be things like power and data, which go in conduit. So they could just kind of plumb it and leave it. And then you wouldn't be so hurried with your process. I mean, it seems like you're going to be hamstrung potentially if I just don't know the timing, on all of this, but it sounds like by the shaking of your head, maybe you've already proposed that, or
the logical place for an artwork to be mounted is the large panel right when you come in the door, the large wooden wall. But we also want to allow for different types of artwork. If someone wanted to do something that was light-based or sound-based, which would require a totally different kind of infrastructure. So we just want to leave as many doors open as possible.
Mm-hmm. It just seems like there's kind of a way to anticipate it, just so they don't have to hold other things up. But
right.
My other question, I guess, is around the partnerships, and just kind of I'm a little bit unclear. So part of the motivation is to use this, it sounded like, as a way to reach out to have some corporate partners or other. And so maybe it's a little bit like what Larissa was asking. So what's the sequence, I guess, around, who is sort of spearheading that? Somebody from City Hall looking at the partnerships, or are they asking the Public Art Commission to help identify potential joint partners? I just am wondering how we might get involved with that.
We're working with some other departments that to identify some logical partners, and then some of it will be driven by whoever the artist is farther down the road and what kind of new media they may want or equipment that they use.
I see. So, for example, if someone used TV displays or something, they might go approach Panasonic or something if they had a
That's right.
shop nearby.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha.
And what about, I totally am on board and understand the philosophy behind wanting a vision of an artwork to drive a piece and not sort of promotion of a certain company. And also, I can see this being an opportunity to, when we put out this information, to let local technology companies know that we are putting out this call for a pool of artists, so that those who know people who work with their technologies could potentially add their names to the melee. So that seems like an outreach that would communicate what's happening and allow for artists who, for example, that one that we had looked at, who we had found through Nokia way back, who had proposed, right? So there was a specific artist who worked in that technology that company would have said, hey, this project's going on, put your name in the hat. But yet that's not driving a decision around it. And then my other question is about, would this project then, as it progresses, go through the same type of process as our 1% projects? It would fall into that category.
Yes, it would be a juried procedure,
right? And
much
so
like how we do all of our other selections.
Okay. I think it's there's a lot of opportunity, and it's potentially an exciting project. And one of the feedbacks that I've shared with Elise around the concept of this that I wanted to share with all of you too is, at first when I heard about a potentially very large-scale public art project in our City Hall lobby, one of my concerns was just that as far as our general population goes, knowing that a lot of our population doesn't set foot in City Hall if they don't work here or aren't coming to a public meeting. And we talked some about the opportunity for a technology piece to potentially interact with our citizens who are not physically in the building, so that it could be potentially a new media piece where they could interact with it from other locations online, and that then it could, depending on what it would do, could be a potential draw for them to come and check out this place where the base of this piece would be. And so that's just one idea that we've banged around.
And if you look at the descriptions of some of the artists that are listed there, they're interactive in very different sorts of ways. So some of them, for instance, they have animation that changes based on environmental feedback coming from various points in the city. Some of them are influenced by Twitter feeds. And so it is interactive and constantly changing and evolving depending on what's going on within the community. So that's the general idea. That doesn't mean that those are the artists necessarily that we would get, but just to give everyone a sense of what we mean by interactive art. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a monitor that changes pictures constantly, which is a common misperception.
Yeah, it's great that these examples are displayed here for more information for anybody interested in knowing about this.
I guess I just had one last comment. When there was something about the architects who had written that they welcome a collaboration, and they gave examples of utilitarian components being kind of part of an art project. So they said, like we've done things where handrails, guardrails, paving, flooring, light fixtures were actually public art components. But it doesn't sound, so I guess it doesn't sound like that's part of the vision per se. So I think they're just a slightly divergent, and I think you can certainly have that vision without being quite so utilitarian. Does that make sense? Maybe just, if this is your document that you're sharing, I think you said with the city, maybe it's less useful to use that one particular quote, but it's only just a suggestion.
Elise, can you share again the timing of when we would open up an artist pool and when that process would start?
Well, we want to open the artist pool as soon as possible because, as you know, we usually leave it open about a month, and that's before we even begin a jury process and then proposals, and that takes a long period of time. So we felt like the prudent thing would be to go ahead and place a call, create the artist pool. Whether the project goes forward or not, it would be great to have a pool of new media artists.
Absolutely.
So there's no harm in doing that.
Absolutely.
So that's the first step, and I think we're trying to get that released actually as soon as possible so that we're ready to go, because we know that the commission and staff have all been very interested in having more new media art, and so it's a great first step for us.
Great. And it strikes me as something that hopefully local press will take an interest in and sharing.
I just have to add 2 more cents, which would be to commend you for elbowing your way in and trying to get art at the beginning of the process as opposed to the 1% add-on that nobody ever seems to be truly happy about because it's the add-on. So I really appreciate the fact, and the city will appreciate your efforts to get in there and make it as much about the art as the actual public place itself.
Thank you.
Anything else on this? Great. Well, thank you, Elise. It's exciting. We'll look forward to next steps. Okay, so we are moving on to Percent for Art update number 3.
Okay, so Percent for Art has been, it's taken a lot of time and a lot of work, and again, a lot of outreach to various departments within the city. Clearly, if Percent for Art and private development is to go forward, we've had to do outreach to developers. We've had to work closely with our partners in planning, with the buildings department, all the way up, and with legal, certainly. So staff is busily working on the Percent for Art report scheduled to go to Policy and Services October 8th. And there were many updates from the city attorney this week regarding the structure of the policy and the ordinance. You may recall that one of my last updates was that we planned to take the ordinance for Percent for Art and Private Development and the ordinance for the municipal development together to make the changes to the existing municipal policy. It's been determined that there are so many different issues with both of those things that we should separate them. So now it's been recommended that we go strictly with the Percent for Art and Private Development for October 8th. Therefore, the Percent for Art and Private Development will go October 8th, and staff will return to Policy and Services in 2014 with amendments to the municipal policy to ensure that it is in line with the private developer policy should it get approved by council. In broad brush strokes, the policy will include the following elements. The in lieu option, which would fund larger, more impactful public art installations and events and release developers from feeling obligated to commission artwork on the site. A public art master planning process would be one of the first steps to engage the public in discussions about the future of public art in Palo Alto. We seek to ensure that there's a clearly outlined process for developers, and we do intend to have a flow chart because we're visual people. And it's a little easier to understand that way. That the percentage would decrease for mega projects. The recommendation will also outline the staffing needs for the program in general and for how the additional Percent for Art projects and private development will be budgeted. We did bring up the discussion that we had last month with the commission regarding the option of considering architecture as a Percent for Art element. And at this initial stage, there are too many complications with ARB. So we've looked at it. We've found a couple of cities that have done it. There are a lot of issues around it. So we'd like to work on the core policy and keep developing that. It's an interesting idea, but I don't believe we're going to initially start with that. And so those are the broad brush strokes of what we're moving forward with Percent for Art when we go to Policy and Services.
Great. Thanks for that update. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Yeah, that was a thorough update. Thank you. Yeah. Great. We're going to move on to item number 4, Mitchell Park Library and Community Center, which we have opening shortly.
So I was actually
shortly, meaning in the coming quarter.
Okay.
Shorter than it used to be. So I was actually on the Mitchell Park site this week and was able to meet Brad Oldham on Tuesday. And so we collected all of our bollards, our owl friends from the corners of the city, and we put them back in the crates, and our installation crew did a wonderful job collecting them, rewrapping them, putting them in the crates, getting them to Mitchell Park. And the wonderful thing was every time they went to collect an owl, they had staff running out saying, "Oh no, you're not taking the owl, let me have another picture with it." So people really grew attached to the owls, and it was difficult to explain that actually these were commissioned for Mitchell Park and they have to go. So we did deliver them to Mitchell Park. Brad Oldham did work with a number of the contractors on site and filled them with concrete. So they've been curing for the last few days. And Saturday morning, I'll meet him on site and we're going to actually install them. Yay. So this will be the first artwork to be fully installed at Mitchell Park. Needless to say, we're very excited about that. So Saturday, September 21st, will mark the first one in.
You might want to consider making sure that those people who were interested in taking pictures, those places where it was placed, that they are part of the invitation list when this is opened.
Definitely.
The more the better to like our art.
Definitely. So moving on to our friend Bruce Beasley, who we spoke about a little bit earlier. So the foundation piece has been there for some time. There have been some issues with scheduling, but it looks like he will be installing the week of October 1st. So as with all the installations, I will plan to be there, and we'll plan to have a camera so I can forward images and we can put them out in our e-news. But our Arpeggio 5 will be moving from Oakland to the Mitchell Park site, and then they'll work on putting the stones around the outside and completing the rest of the landscaping. So that's moving in the first week of October. And keep in mind, a lot of these dates have moved several times. So that's the tentative date. Roger Stoller was able to do a number of the pilot holes on the outside, on the exterior of the building. Previously, there were some complications with some placement of fire sprinklers and fun things like that, but we were able to get through all of it. And so he's going to be back on site. I guess he was on site today finishing his pilot holes. And then the stone people are going to come in and make the holes larger without breaking the exterior stone. And then Roger will come back and install his hardware. And then we'll look at installing the sculpture before the opening. So those dates have been a little in flux because it's a lot of people coming and going. But that one's moving forward. It's sailing just fine. So everything's had some bumps in the road, but it's actually coming together. And then we have Mark Verlander, and so he is he's working with a couple of different people, but he is planning to have it completed by October 1st. So I can't wait to see the panels.
Yeah. Meaning the panels completed. And
The
then
panels printed and completed.
Yeah, excellent. And the hooks will, at some point when the interior is ready, then, will he install the hooks, or will those be?
He's doing the installation himself, as is part of his contract. I believe the wall is actually ready, but there are so many things that are coming and going out of that room that we don't want it installed quite yet. So as we get closer, we'll see if we need to hold it back a little bit. Worst case scenario, we can find a place to store the panels if we need to. There was a meeting this past week with the steering committee for the opening celebrations for Mitchell Park. And I'll share with you some of the events that we were talking about having take place. So there were several different commissioners and stakeholders and interested groups there. They're talking about having a passport project, possibly, where people can go see whether it's art features or the green features of the building and get some sort of stamp, and then there'll be a reward at the end, or there'll be some freebies along the way. But ways to get people to really circulate through the building. We're talking about having some live feed images. So whether it's an Instagram of people taking pictures of themselves with the bollards and different things and have it projected up, that's one of the things that they were interested in pursuing. And of course, we talked about some of the printed items. So the commission had talked about wanting to have bookmark giveaways with information about the various artworks and an image on there. So we're working on pursuing all of those various elements, and it's going to be really exciting once we have a date. So I think.
Elise, what happens to the little owls? Like the maquette owls, could they be part of the scavenger hunt, or like the little ones that people have had in their offices? The maquettes, yeah.
Oh, well, the maquettes are only about that big.
Oh, are they?
Yep.
Oh, why am I thinking that? It's like, okay.
No. It was either the full size ones, and then the only other ones that exist are about this high.
Oh gosh, I thought it was like that, but it's so nice that people want to take their pictures with them. So I think that's nice to go searching for them as well.
And in the statement I got from Brad, he mentioned that he was really looking forward to seeing kids posing with them and playing with the reflections and whatnot. So it'll be fun to see that finally happen.
May I ask a question? Thank you for going to the meeting, and Is there any, do you think, legs about the idea of us trying to get one of the artists to do a lecture, or could we try for that, or was there?
Absolutely. So Roger Stoller has made it known that he is interested and available to come to the site and speak. The programming is still very much in flux. I know they're looking at having several weeks of celebrations and special events there, so I'm not clear if it would be an opening day event or if it's something that we would do in the few weeks after it opens. But Roger Stoller has let us know that he's happy to be there opening day. He's happy to come speak. That he's certainly available. I'm sure if we're able to schedule some in advance, maybe we could get Bruce Beasley to come speak or participate in some way. I've spoken to Mark Verlander about the possibility of doing a hands-on project, maybe with the teens, whether it's working with graphics or whether it's actually painting cardboard versions of the panels, although you never know if it might be raining, so it might be safer to have him doing the graphic design. But those are all things I've been in touch with the artists about doing. We certainly want to make sure that they're present and available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having already a lot of momentum around the community event of the opening is such a great way to leverage that for exposure to the art as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So just let us know if there's anything that we can do to help kind of keep that momentum, because I think that exactly, it's always like people are going to want to go flooding over and check out the new library they've been waiting for so long. And I think there could be a lot of energy around it. We could try to do a few things. It'll be exciting. Thanks.
And one of the ones I remember we had brought up as an idea before was after you had led a tour of the public art in Mitchell Park to, I think it was other people from other cities or something who'd come for some reason, and had gotten us talking about how great it would be to have docent led tours of public art available. I mean, there's 7 pieces altogether in Mitchell Park, and I think it would be great to even utilize docents who are already doing that for the Art Center if they would be interested, or commissioners to lead for that weekend. People could walk around and see the different 7 works in probably less than 40 minutes or something to get a little tour. And we had talked about a kind of a one-pager overview of those works as well.
And I did get a reference for another designer and have talked to her about that. And she's already had some thoughts and sent me some ideas. So
great. So that's rolling. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Yeah, because that will be a great place to distribute that information and have it be available. Excellent. Good. Anybody else on this topic? No? Okay. Great. So moving on to item number 5. Subcommittees. So I wanted just to have this time on the agenda tonight to follow up on our last special meeting, continue the discussion going forth. I know we just had 4 of us who were there last time, and so a chance to give an update on what's going on with it. It is summarized fairly well in the minutes of the September 9th meeting. With regard to the new subcommittees that we're looking at, which is moving away from having a project-by-project subcommittee list of what it was totaling close to 19 different committees for the 7 of us, and instead orienting based on the types of advisory roles that we as commissioners have been tasked with. So those areas would be around outreach and / partnerships. We haven't come up with a final name, but it would be anything from thinking about, for example, this Mitchell Park type of opening and how to partner with groups in the city and with the public, as well as partnerships on projects, such as we were talking about as potential for the City Hall project, of local companies we could partner with and so forth. So with a maximum of 3 commissioners on each of these, as our other subcommittees, that could report back to the whole commission on their recommendations, and then of course decisions would come back to the whole body. Governance, so continue on with our work in looking at policies and procedures and how we operate, roles and responsibilities and how things work. So that subcommittee would naturally fall to the chair and vice chair, but additionally it would be nice to have a 3rd person who's interested in joining that to round out that group. The ad hoc project subcommittee is intended to be one that would be for, that could come up as needed for specifically commissioner-initiated project types of projects, like has happened for University Avenue tunnels, projects that don't come out of 1%, but that evolve through another way. So that subcommittee would be formed for the duration of that particular project while it's needed, and then dissolve after that. And finally, this one, with the idea of the innovation in public art, would formalize what we already have been doing periodically, which is sharing best practice examples of other public art around the world. You know, what Commissioner Kavanaugh did last time in sharing percent for art projects, what some of us who've gone to the Americans for the Arts conference have done in bringing that back. But it would be a chance to formalize those recommendations and have it be regular and something that we could discuss as a group and see what we wanted to take from it. And so the next step of this is that for our meeting coming up next week, the 4 commissioners who were present at this meeting each took one of these to look at in more depth and come back to the meeting with all of us, having looked at the map document, which nicely actually has many of these elements, goals for those elements in it, but to take a fresh look at that and say, well, you know, what of those items would be priorities for these subcommittees to do, and also how would those subcommittees interact with city staff and others to accomplish that, and what would the deliverables be for each of those groups. So that's the next step, and that's for our meeting next week. So I'll stop there and just open this up to any further thoughts on this that have come up since last meeting, or anything else you guys want to talk about here.
Well, I just want to say you did a really nice job of giving the whole overview and what the marching orders are for Monday. I will say that in reflecting on the discussion that was very fruitful last time, it's going to be just really important to define clearly what the words are and what they mean, because I think that you can call a subcommittee whatever, but it's very important that it means the same thing to everybody that's on the commission. So I think that, you know, these are sort of our working titles, but if in like reflecting on them, it makes sense to call it another word or name that makes it much clearer, by all means, because I think that outreach certainly is a word that is a very multifaceted word. Partnerships, marketing, PR, particularly that group. And then we also just want to make sure that nothing is too narrow, but also that nothing is too broad, which was my concern a bit about the innovation in public art, because it becomes a whole kitchen sink of awesomeness. But yeah, you know,
to have deliverables that are specific and relevant, or
and I like that you included the word ad hoc for one of the committees, because that's a catch-all. You know, for everything, for those new things that come up that we have no place to put them. Ad hoc.
And where
that happens quite often.
You know, and where it needs to be more than one person who's able to talk and meet about that through the month. Because we talked about, in a lot of ways, there will be certain types of things that come up, even initially with a 1% project, where, you know, a point person can be the point person with the with the lease from the city side to give feedback from the commission that month. But then there are times when it is called for to have more than one person discuss it or take action on it through that month.
And these projects can move, because it might start off in ad hoc, but it might end up in another committee once you decide what's going to happen. Because a lot of times we're just throwing projects in the beginning, but by the time we get into the management of it and deciding what they are, they fall into a totally different different category. So I like that idea. And if you can organize it where it's just those 4, that would be great.
Right? Yeah. It's more focused. And then with ad hoc, it's really clear for us that it is ad hoc, and to dissolve it, we've definitely, you know, fallen to having committees that on our list that really should be ad hoc, that are kind of years that were for a project that transpired sort of a year and a half ago, and even with two of us hanging on in the subcommittee, then it also becomes unclear at that point what is actually the role of that group anymore, which is, it's almost negligible at that point.
We'll make it a parking lot.
Yeah.
For those kinds of things, because I think when something like the public safety building, which sort of got lost somewhere, but it's going to come
That
back.
we drew straws for,
Yeah.
remember that?
Right, I remember
All of
that.
us
That was
wanted
really
to
good.
be on it. So there was actually a straw drawing at the meeting to determine who would be on that.
Oh,
subcommittee.
really?
You were? I was too.
I was too.
The three of us. We were the ones who drew the straws. Excellent.
So,
Those were the days.
so it didn't go away. It sort of parked because every once in a while that whole idea and discussion about what's going to happen to this building or whether or not they should build a new building comes up. So, you know, in case someone is around at that time, you might want to maintain your spot. So, you know, if it gets parked in ad hoc for now, does not mean that that person
You don't
might
have
lose
your
their
di-
seniority.
your dibs anymore.
But anyway, just thinking out loud. Yeah.
My comment was just going to be that I really appreciated the kind of strategic thinking behind these and the collaboration between staff and the commission about kind of just narrowing these down, because as a newer commissioner, it's just a little bit more manageable as well to be able to kind of look at a list of 4 and say, oh, I understand generally what these are and how I can engage, as opposed to, you know, looking at a list of 19 or whatever and thinking, oh, this already has 3, this already has 3, this already has 3, and it's a little bit trickier to kind of, I guess, find your way. Thank you. So anyway, I think it's been a really good process, and I'll look forward to presenting my innovation in art on Monday, and look forward to
great.
hearing others, and yeah.
And I think just to share too, that part of that process of shifting away from being project focused was the realization that project details and things that are being managed by staff in the way that Elise gave us updates on a number of things tonight,
Yeah.
or if a commissioner is leading on something, should actually be shared with everyone and the public at a public meeting. And we shouldn't have, you know, a group of subcommittee that's moving something too far along without it actually coming forth to the whole body. So that was another part of that alignment of doing that, because then it's just clear if you prepared for the meeting, you've read your materials, and you're here, you're hearing everything that's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
There was the one thing that maybe you didn't call out was the discussion that we had about the collection had been one as a potential committee, and through the discussions, I think we determined that that was not necessarily something that should be committee focused, but rather was full commission business and the public, as you say. And so I think that's a really important one, because we do have this very large collection and we don't know very much about it. I mean, we need to kind of keep looking at the new works, which is maybe the segue to the next if we're doing that today. I don't know if we're, you know, just I think the notion of also, if we're doing the 1% for art and private development, if we do a public art master plan, understanding what we have will be intrinsic to knowing, you know, sort of accessioning, deaccessioning, and all of that, which again, I just think is a kind of a very good commission-wide body of work to tackle. And so I guess in the end, all I'm saying is that I think this will remain as a broad board role to review the collection and be involved in that, as opposed to it being parsed out as one of the subcommittees. So.
And I think since you're, and every time this happens, every time someone comes on you and they say, I'm not familiar with the collection, one of the things that Darlene left us as a gift, and I think everybody got a copy of that.
Yeah, is the book.
Yeah,
yeah, I
book.
have it. Oh, no,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Although it was in black and white, but, you know, it's the best thing that we
has
have so far.
information.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
great.
For
Absolutely.
sure. And I did, just to follow up on your comment about how we had started a monthly review of pieces, and Elise and I talked about that and determined that we'll get that going monthly again with her new hire.
Oh, fair enough, yeah.
Coming on. So that will work best for that. And fortunately, with the database online coming hopefully
Right.
before too long as well, that will be another great way to quickly access for anyone to see also what's on there. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's nothing more on the subcommittee's topic, we will go ahead. For your calendar, we will be meeting on Monday at 12:30 at the Fireside Room, which is where we met last time, in the Lucy Stern Center.
Okay, I'll find it.
The one closest to the parking lot where the Junior Museum and Zoo is. It's the room closest to that parking lot. Next, do we have requests for items for the agenda for next month? One of them that I thought of that I think I've talked with Elise about already is a review of our existing accession and deaccession policies. One of the things that Amanda and I have looked at is some examples from other cities, and while we're not there yet in being at the point of amending ours, we and staff agree that ours do need to be further developed, and I'd like to have a discussion with the whole commission about our current policy so everybody's clear on exactly what it is, and I would be happy to share ideas or from other places of where I think we could fine-tune and develop further what's in our policy right now.
I like that idea, and I also like to I don't want to talk in this anymore. I want to just talk to you guys like this. The VERA policies, at some point, that maybe as a group, that can also be discussed. It doesn't have to be at the meeting now, but it needs to be at some other meeting, because I remember the last time people are talking about moving artwork, and we should know that there is a very complicated process, and chances are nil that we can even remove artwork, and there's a process and a policy for that.
And it reminds me that in the past we've talked about having a legal public art expert come to our meeting. We've brought that up, kind of a few times. I think we have a couple of leads on potential people, so maybe that's something that we can loop back in on, because I think we have new commissioners on board as well since we've last talked about things like this, and it feels like a good time to do it. Yeah.
Maybe after the first of the year.
Or whenever somebody is available, if we could find someone on our meeting night to be available who would be good, then I would be happy to have them anytime. Okay.
Yeah, for agenda items for next time, I guess Elise already mentioned a couple of key ones. We'll have the announcement probably of the interviews from the 17th for the University Avenue tunnels. And then there was also, I guess, after the Percent for Art policy meeting, that will have happened on the 8th of October, hopefully. So those couple of items. So I imagine we're going to have a full agenda next time then, between our subcommittee updates. Yeah, I think we're going to have a full.
Yeah, hopefully on Monday we can form our new subcommittees.
Oh,
That
good
would be
idea.
great.
So what's the new tentative date for the Mitchell Park opening?
There's not a date that's set.
Yeah.
Before the end of the year, maybe?
The idea is that it will open before the end of the year, yes.
Anybody have any announcements?
I do. Just a reminder, the Santa Monica Glow Festival is Saturday the 28th, and so I am planning to go down to see it. I've never actually gotten to go before, so I'm very excited about that. We'll be happy to report out. Raina is also going.
Oh, great.
So,
So wait,
yeah.
let's put that on our agenda for next time.
So,
Get some
yeah.
visuals and update on that. I've heard a lot about it.
What is it,
It's
Elise?
this overnight.
It's Saturday night
Extravaganza.
in Santa Monica. It's the all-night public art festival in Santa Monica. And it's at the Santa Monica Pier, and they reimagine that whole space. So it's all new media art, and they ended up having to, they were going to have to break so many ordinances that night that the city attorney actually went to council and asked that they suspended all ordinances for that one night. So they do the festival every couple of years, and this is the date for this year. So it's an all-night public art extravaganza. So
That's great.
it'll be fun.
Any chance you get to meet with the public art staff down there? They'll probably
Not
be
during
quite
the event
busy
because
that
they're quite
weekend,
busy,
yeah.
but Raina and I are in touch with them by email, and they wanted to get some feedback because we wanted to see what it takes to do that kind of a festival or program.
Yeah, cool. Sounds great. Exciting. Anyone else on announcements? Nope. Okay, I officially adjourn our meeting tonight. Thank you all.